Hi, now just as a quick introduction to our next topic, which is going to be waste minimization, let's have a quick recap of our Goldilocks and the Three Bears story, just to put us in the right frame of mind. So remember, Goldilocks wanted to make perfect cupcakes for her three bears. So she took the eggs and made the cupcake. Took the eggs, made the cupcake, took the egg, made the cupcake. However, a whole bunch of customers came along to the door wanting some of these cupcakes, so they were happy. They were eating them. However, then we had to get some unhappy customers because they couldn't meet their needs, and we ordered more eggs. Now, unfortunately, by now, the customers are upset, the bears are upset, and so nobody else is now eating these cupcakes. So suddenly these eggs go to waste. Here we come. The eggs go to waste, they go off, and they make everyone feel sick. So today's lesson is all about this part here, trying to reduce waste in our production line, not only of the product itself, but also the time and the equipment associated with that. So we're trying to reduce waste today. So this lesson is all about waste minimization in our production process. Remember, trying to achieve efficient and effective production methods in our operations production system. Looking at our study design, these are strategies to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of operations, and how we're doing this through waste minimization. This is today's lesson. We're going to focus on reduce, reuse, and recycle, which is a tagline I'm sure many of you know from your general life. Okay, so what is waste and why should it be minimized? Now, waste is absolutely a general phrase we'd all use to describe rubbish in the bin, rubbish around, things that we don't use, discard, all of that analogy. And many of these pictures in here will have reference to that in terms of what waste means to you. In a business sense, and for our study design, we're looking at any resource. So not just raw materials, but also labor can be wasted. So people idly sitting around doing nothing is waste. Okay? Time could be wasted. Products could be wasted, machinery could be wasted. So we've got a whole bunch of examples in here where we've experienced waste. So this is any resource that is discarded because it cannot be further used in the production process. So it's much broader than probably your general description of the word. So why are we so worried about it? Well, there's a number of reasons of the negative impacts of waste on a business by having this. Okay, firstly, money can get wasted. So if we discard our raw materials, so those eggs that went to waste, okay, we spent money buying them, we never use them, and therefore we can't get our money back. So as a business, our costs and our expenses have gone up, and yet we haven't got a resultant impact on our revenue. And so money has been wasted, and our expenses and costs have also gone up. Secondly, these overproduced goods can go off or expire. Okay, so if we leave the eggs out there, they're going to go off, they're going to go past the expiry date, we might have to just throw them away. Okay, if we'd actually made some cupcakes and they're sitting on the shelves and no one is using them, they could equally perish, go off, get wasted. So all of that can lead to the goods having to be discounted to sell them. And I'm sure you've experienced that for yourself, where you go down to the local supermarket and they've got clearance items which must be got rid of, being sold for half the price. Now, clearly from a business sense, if you're only earning half the revenue from that item that you did before, that's also damaging your ultimate profits. So it's not helping with the raw materials, it's not helping with money, it's not helping with the stuff that we've got to discount as well. Similarly, if this waste then gets discarded or thrown away or ends up in landfill or some of these horrible pictures end up in here, that can lead to prosecution. So a company can also be fined or prosecuted by the Environmental Protection Authority if the damage to the environment as a result of your waste. So there's another legal aspect to it as well. Fourthly, customer complaints. Okay, so if we have poor quality items and returns, and that people don't like the stuff that we've got for them and they're not happy and they send it back to us, again, I'm sure you've experienced that for yourself from online shopping, etc. That's waste as well, because often that product can't be reused for someone else, so it's heading straight to the landfill. So it's going to damage our reputation of the business, and people are going to feel very badly associated because of all this waste we're contributing to the environment. And Arguably fifth, staff can get bored and demotivated if they're idle on the production line. So we talked about labour being part of this waste bit, where if you've ever had a part-time job where you're just sitting around idly doing nothing, then you're demotivated, you're fed up, you're bored, that's another source of problems for the business that it's going to have to resolve. So boredom, customer complaints, fines, prosecution, wasted money, time, space, bad reputation, all of these contribute to lots of reasons why we want to try and avoid waste occurring. Equally, if we can be better at it, then clearly there's going to be a great benefit. It's going to reduce those costs. It's going to reduce the amount of waste treatment we're going to have to deal with. We're not going to get fined. We're not going to get any infringement notices. And if we're seen to be more sustainable at reducing waste, that's also going to enhance our business reputation. So that's going to create better marketing opportunities. So hopefully you can see from this, there's a lot of reasons why we should attack this head on as a business, trying to reduce waste and be seen to be much more sustainable in our operations. Okay, our first waste minimization strategy is reduce. Again, straight from what the word means, we're trying to reduce the amount of materials we use to produce the output. We're trying to decrease the amount of products, raw materials, resources, labor, or time discarded during production. So one picture is evident in here, where you can see this alignment of the pieces to make a t-shirt has been done to try and reduce the amount of material we need in the first place. We could have just plonked one of those templates on there, cut around it and thrown all the rest of the material away, and that would be hugely wasteful. By trying to reduce the amount of raw material we need in the first place, by realigning this, we're hopefully going to reduce the amount of waste we have as an output. So there's lots of business applications of this idea of reducing waste. Okay. Firstly, remember, one of the areas of waste could be labor. So if we find we've got too many staff, then we just need to reduce the amount of staff that we have on that production line or on that shift, and that will reduce wastage. So one way is by a business may choose to lower the number of employees producing goods if there's more labor than customer demand. Equally, you might have noticed with your part-time jobs that a business may suddenly then call on staff to come in to help cover shifts if suddenly there's a surge in business demand. So the idea is you're more responsive. Rather than just having people idly sitting around waiting for customer traffic to build up, we just allocate only the number of people we actually need, and that will therefore reduce waste in labor. Equally, you've seen lots of businesses probably use those movement light sensors. So the idea is we're reducing energy wastage and reducing energy consumption. So they only trigger on as people walk past them. That will reduce energy wastage. We might use, as I've just shown here, a CAD program to try and reduce the amount of material wasted when you cut up cloth for a t-shirt design. Or going back to my cake scenario, we might reduce the waste of eggs by using that just-in-time inventory system. So therefore, the stock only arrives just as we need it. We reduce the amount we have to buy or store or that's going to potentially perish, and therefore we get a better ratio of what we're actually going to use for our production. So all of that is designed to reduce the amount of waste we create by reducing the amount of resources, labor, or time discarded during that production process. So reduce is the first strategy. Next one, so we've got reduce, now we've got reuse. So the idea being, are we reusing some of the equipment, some of the items in a different way, or repurposing them so we can get more use out of them? So the idea being we have multiple uses of items that would otherwise have been discarded. And probably one of the best examples is these beer kegs. Okay, so these came from Carlton United Brewery, and so the idea being is they pour the beer into them, send them out to the pubs use them for their draft beer, and then reuse these same containers, kegs, for the next batch. So you're reusing what otherwise would have just been purely just thrown away. You're reusing these kegs time and time again, and therefore, by inherently, you're going to reduce the amount of waste you have. Okay, that's the Carlton United Brewery example for their pubs and public houses, but there's plenty of other examples here. Okay, so reusing the waste to prevent it going blue. So there's plenty of other examples. Another one here is a glass drink bottle business may choose to have customers return used glass bottles so they can clean and rebottle the drinks. You're going to reuse the bottles time and time again. A cafe could use reusable ceramic coffee cups rather than disposable ones. They're going to reuse the coffee cup. And in this case here, we've got silicone molds, so we can keep using them time and time again to make our cupcakes, which I know I love that example. Okay, so reuse, nice simple strategy, which makes multiple use of the items which would otherwise have been discarded. And now the third of our reduce, reuse, recycle strategies, recycle. Obviously, recycle means to transform items which would otherwise have been discarded into another product. So again, we've got loads of examples here. So we've got here the Domino's pizza box that gets recycled back to be used again. So Domino's pizza have got a recycling relationship with VCE. So the idea being when you used it once, you put it in the bin, okay, and you put it in the recycling bin, VCE pick it up, they convert it back into pulp, they then reconvert it into a new cardboard box, and then send them back to Domino's to use again. So the idea being we have a recycling approach with the waste that would otherwise have been discarded. There's plenty of other examples. So Carlton United Brewery melts down and recycles the broken bottles and glass from its automated production line. So if any of you have been lucky enough to go in and actually see their operations, you'll see occasionally bottles just bouncing off that they've got misshapen, damaged, something happens. Well, all of that gets swept up and all of that glass then gets melted down and recycled back into bottles to use again. Again, reducing waste. And then back to our lovely cake scenario, we could also recycle cupcake wrappers. So even in our small cafe business, we could take those wrappers, reuse them again by just having them made back into paper and then reforming into new cupcake wrappers, and then we can recycle them and use them time and time again. So recycling, a strategy that aims to transform items which would otherwise have been discarded. So recycle, use time and time again. Here we have a great example of that reduce, reuse, recycle strategy for waste minimization used in business. So this is Body Shop, and they have a number of strategies at play to try and reduce waste all across their goods and services that they provide to us as customers. So first of all, they created a refill scheme. Now, many of you will have experienced this yourself, where if you go into their stores and you bring in the bottles, you can refill from the products. So you can refill from the shampoo, the conditioners, body lotions, etc. So rather than have new plastic packaging time and time again, we're reusing the product that's already out there. So you can bring in and reuse your bottle time and time again. Okay, so that's going to reduce waste in terms of how it's operation. So it's reducing waste and it's using recycling. And the idea being by 2022, there'll be 500 stores. So some of you may have already experienced that already, but it's a great system where you walk into the store and you can use the refill scheme in that store to refill those containers. Secondly, there's also a recycling program, which is amazing. So in 2019, the Body Shop launched a community fair trade recycled plastic program. So I'll go through the details here. What they do is they source plastic from marginalized waste pickers in India. These workers are offered a fair price, steady income, and favorable working conditions. So the job is to go out into these areas and source as much waste plastic as they possibly can. When they bring it in, and the first year they purchase 250 tons of community fair trade recycled plastic. That plastic then got recycled to be used as shampoo and conditioner bottles sold in the stores. So we're recycling all that waste plastic that is otherwise going to be sitting in dumps in India, and these workers are getting paid to do that job. So it's a win-win scenario. It's great for the reputation for the business. They're reducing the waste. They're going to be able to hopefully have you better reputation for the business and you want to buy products from them. So there's loads of wins from this scenario here, and they want to build this even further. So by the end of 2022, they're hoping to have over 900 tons of recycled plastic in operation. So a great example of using reduce, reuse, and recycle in the one business. So let's go for a worked example of how we might see some of these questions appear in a SACS or end of year examination. So here's a classic. So distinguish. So by that meaning, what is different? Okay, so what is different between reduce and recycle? Okay, both of them are waste minimization strategies. We're going to get 2 marks for this. So we're looking for the difference between the two. Reduce is where a business decreases the amount of products, raw materials, labor, or time discarded during production, such as using the just-in-time approach to reduce the waste of eggs in the bakery. Whereas, so here's our difference, recycle involves a business transforming items that would otherwise have been discarded into another product. For example, Carlton United Brewery melts down and recycles the broken bottles and glass from its automated production line into new bottles. So we've got the difference between reduce and recycle, and therefore can scaffold up for the full 2 marks. Okay, so here we have a nice summary of our 3 waste minimization strategies: reduce, reuse, and recycle. So remember, waste is any resource. Okay, not just raw materials, but it's time, it's machinery, equipment, raw materials, all of that combined that is discarded because it can't be further used in the production process. And we want to try and reduce waste wherever possible for lots of reasons. Okay, so the 3 strategies are reduce, trying to reduce the amount of resources we actually use to make the production. So by trying to use our material better, by trying to maximize its use, so reducing the amount of resources we need to produce stuff, reusing some of the things that we use. So rather than just discarding the beer kits, we can reuse them time and time again. And recycling. So things that need to normally go to waste getting transformed into something else. So the pizza box going into the bins and then getting recycled back into pulp, and then the pulp being recreated into new cardboard in the future. So being able to be recycled. So I reduce, reuse, recycle. And again, you'll have seen this image loads of times in general society. Really important for business to use, and it's a great strategy for a number of reasons. Okay, what we're moving on to the next lesson is lean management, how we become more lean in our production process.